The world was stunned on December 23, 2025, as China and Taiwan signed a historic agreement. For decades, the idea of such a moment seemed impossible, an unthinkable breakthrough after years of tension and uncertainty. Headlines flashed across every screen, and the global community paused, holding its breath. Many had braced for conflict, expecting the worst, but instead, they witnessed the unimaginable, peace unfolding in real time. For decades, the Taiwan Strait was a powder keg, where superpower ambitions clashed with democratic resolve. The waters had long been a symbol of division, a line that seemed impossible to cross without violence. The Strait Stability Accord was more than a regional event. It was a global turning point. The world watched as history was rewritten and the balance of power subtly shifted. In Washington and Tokyo, relief mixed with disbelief. Leaders who had prepared for crisis now found themselves navigating a new reality, one filled with hope, but also uncertainty. European leaders hailed diplomacy, and financial markets soared. The world's economies, once on edge, surged with optimism as investors bet on stability and growth. The world had braced for war, but instead saw a handshake that promised a new era. The image of former adversaries coming together sent a powerful message of reconciliation. This wasn't just a truce. It was a decision to pull the world back from the brink. Relief swept across continents, as people dared to hope for a future free from the shadow of war. The China-Taiwan issue was never just about territory. It was a clash of ideologies, of identity, and of the right to self-determination. Generations had grown up with this conflict shaping their lives. War would have been catastrophic, drawing in the US and allies, shattering economies and causing immense suffering. The cost would have been measured not just in dollars, but in countless lives lost and futures destroyed. The suddenness of the agreement suggested powerful forces had shifted behind the scenes. Months, perhaps years, of secret negotiations had finally borne fruit. Generations had lived under the shadow of invasion. Now, the world scrambled to understand how this diplomatic miracle happened. In homes and offices, people asked, what changed, and who made it possible? The old standoff, once seen as permanent, had been upended overnight. The dawn brought new questions, but also a sense of possibility that had been missing for decades. As euphoria faded, questions emerged. How did this happen? Why now? What were the real motivations behind this sudden peace, and could it last? The world was left to ponder the mechanics and meaning of this unprecedented peace. As night fell, hope mingled with uncertainty, and a new chapter in history began to unfold. To grasp the magnitude of the accord, we must revisit the roots of the China-Taiwan divide. The split began in 1949, when the nationalists retreated to Taiwan after losing the civil war to Mao's communists. This created the two Chinas dilemma, fueling decades of tension and Cold War standoffs. The US became Taiwan's protector, preventing invasion and nearly triggering nuclear crises in the 1950s. As Taiwan democratized in the 1990s, a distinct Taiwanese identity emerged, intensifying friction with Beijing. China viewed any move toward independence as a red line, responding with military and economic pressure. In the years before the accord, military drills and harsh rhetoric escalated, making war seem inevitable. Diplomatic channels closed, and the world watched with alarm. Against this backdrop of relentless tension, the announcement of peace was nothing short of astonishing. It was a sudden sunrise after a long, dark night. The Strait Stability Accord was the product of secret diplomacy. While the world saw only threats, negotiators from both sides met quietly in neutral locations. Business leaders, fearing economic ruin from war, opened back channels and convinced leaders to talk. The breakthrough. Sidestepping the sovereignty issue and focusing on practical peace. Taiwan demanded an end to military threats. China agreed, in exchange for something it needed. Beijing's shift was dramatic. Choosing stability over a risky military campaign, the accord required both sides to pull back forces, open hotlines, and stop hostile rhetoric. For Taiwan, it meant freedom from invasion fears. For the world, a major flashpoint was diffused. It was a triumph of pragmatism over ideology. The accord rested on three pillars: military de-escalation, economic cooperation, and cultural exchange. First, China renounced force and dismantled coastal military assets. Taiwan pledged not to declare independence or buy offensive weapons. This created a defensive balance, reducing the risk of war. Second, the economic pillar established joint ventures and a Strait Economic Council, intertwining both economies. The goal: make conflict economically ruinous for both sides. Third, cultural and social exchange aim to rebuild trust through tourism, academic ties, and joint projects. By connecting citizens, the accord sought to erode decades of mistrust. These pillars formed a roadmap for a new relationship. The accord didn't solve sovereignty, but built practical cooperation. Over time, the hope was that peace and partnership would make old arguments obsolete. The structure was simple, but its impact could be profound. It was a foundation for a new reality across the strait. At the heart of the accord was Taiwan's dominance in advanced semiconductors. By 2025, TSMC produced over 90% of the world's most advanced chips, vital for everything from AI to military tech. This silicon shield meant war would devastate global supply chains and economies, especially China's. Taiwan's negotiators made it clear any attack would destroy the chip industry, hurting everyone. In secret talks, Taiwan offered a grand bargain: peace and autonomy in exchange for stable chip supply and tech collaboration. This transformed the dynamic from military coercion to economic negotiation. China had to weigh unification against catastrophic self-harm. The choice was clear: a prosperous, peaceful Taiwan was more valuable than a ruined island. Taiwan's technological leverage proved that economic power can rival military might. Chip diplomacy unlocked the deal. China's pivot to peace was driven by economic and strategic realities. The economy was slowing, with demographic and debt crises looming. War risked disaster. Aggressive tactics had backfired, strengthening Taiwan's resolve and uniting global democracies against China. The Silicon Shield was decisive. China's tech ambitions depended on Taiwan's chips. The accord offered guaranteed access and collaboration, outweighing territorial gains. For Xi Jinping, it was a legacy of statesmanship, not war. Diplomacy turned confrontation into a strategic win. Pragmatism and long-term vision prevailed. The accord sent shockwaves worldwide, dominating headlines and sparking intense debate in capitals across the globe. Newsrooms buzzed with speculation, and ordinary people everywhere tuned in, eager to understand what this historic agreement would mean for their own futures. In the US, a sense of relief swept through the public and financial markets. War had been averted, and the threat of immediate conflict faded. Yet, this relief was tinged with anxiety. Many Americans wondered what new challenges would arise as China and Taiwan deepened their economic ties, and what it would mean for America's role in the region. Across Europe, leaders welcomed the peace, hailing the triumph of diplomacy over confrontation. Business communities breathed a collective sigh of relief, knowing that their vital supply chains would remain intact and trade could continue without disruption. However, in Eastern Europe, some nations viewed the accord with unease. Officials worried about Beijing's growing influence and questioned whether the balance of power was shifting too far in China's favor. In Asia, reactions were mixed. Japan and South Korea saw the agreement as a step toward regional stability, hoping it would reduce tensions. But in countries like the Philippines and Vietnam, there was a sense of wariness, as leaders feared that China's focus might now shift toward their own contested waters and territories. For the United States, the accord forced a strategic rethink. Its long-standing security guarantee for Taiwan was now less central, prompting debates in Washington about how to adapt to the new reality and maintain influence in Asia. Some analysts warned that America's influence could wane as Taiwan and other regional players drew closer to China's powerful economic orbit, potentially reshaping alliances and trade patterns. The great power rivalry did not disappear. Instead, it shifted. The competition between the US and China moved from the military sphere to economic and diplomatic arenas, with both sides maneuvering for advantage on the world stage. The accord marked the beginning of a new phase, not the end, of US-China competition. The world watched as both nations recalibrated their strategies. All eyes turned to how this new balance of power would play out, with governments, businesses, and citizens alike bracing for the changes ahead. The peace was real, but the underlying rivalry and uncertainty remained just beneath the surface, shaping decisions and alliances. The future was more complex than ever, with new opportunities and risks emerging in a rapidly changing world. The Accord's peace is fragile. Leadership changes or political shifts could unravel it. An aggressive Beijing or pro-independence Taipei could reignite tensions. Implementation is complex. Disputes over weapons or economic policy could erode trust. The Accord is a beginning, not an end, requiring constant management. Three futures loom: lasting peace through integration, a cold rivalry with tense stability, or a return to conflict if trust collapses. The worst-case scenario, a failed accord, could lead to even greater danger. The path forward is uncertain and demands vigilance. The door to peace is open, but keeping it that way will take courage and wisdom. Leaders and citizens on both sides must commit to the hard work ahead. The world watches, hoping this fragile peace endures. The Strait Stability Accord is more than just a China-Taiwan deal. It's a landmark in the ongoing story of international diplomacy, a testament to what can be achieved when dialogue triumphs over division. It stands as a symbol of hope for a world often fractured by mistrust and rivalry, reminding us that even the deepest divides can be bridged. The Accord asks a vital question: can pragmatism, economic integration, and a willingness to de-escalate truly resolve other global conflicts, or is this an exception? The lesson here is clear: by reframing problems and focusing on practical shared benefits, even the most stubborn deadlocks can begin to loosen. Peace doesn't always require untangling every historical grievance or settling every score. Sometimes the act of building a better future together is enough to move forward. When people come together, united by hope and a vision for tomorrow, the impossible can become possible. Yet, the Accord's success was shaped by unique factors, such as Taiwan's so-called Silicon Shield. Its vital role in the global technology supply chain gave it leverage that not every region possesses. Not every conflict has such a powerful bargaining chip, and many regions face challenges without similar advantages. Still, the Accord proves that diplomatic solutions are possible, even when they seem out of reach, and that perseverance can yield results. The future of the Accord, and its value as a model for others, depends on the daily choices and ongoing commitment of leaders in Beijing, Taipei, and far beyond. Peace is not a one-time achievement, but a continuous process. It must be nurtured, protected, and renewed with every generation. It requires not only political will, but also the courage to take risks and the patience to build trust over time. December 23, 2025, marked a new beginning, a turning point that will be remembered for years to come. Now the real work of building lasting peace begins, as communities and nations strive to turn hope into reality, brick by brick, and day by day. The hope is that this story inspires others to choose stability over conflict, and to believe that peace, though fragile, is always worth pursuing.